This show has been made with the help and support of Nathan Organ.
Welcome to the kiwimana Bay. Christmas time, mistletoe and wine.
Ah, humbug!
This is episode 131 of our beekeeping show.
We are Gary and Margaret. We love honeybees. We are kiwimana and we are beekeepers who live in the Waitaki Ranges on the wild west coast of Auckland, New Zealand. So welcome.
Welcome. Kiwimana is a place where the beekeeping community can share a conversation and connect. And in this episode, we are talking about Christmas time in the bee yard and beekeeping in a Belfast prison.
A famous beekeeping author has passed away, unfortunately.
What kind of sugar is good for bees?
And roving reporters from around the world.
Awesomeness! And if that wasn't enough, guys, we build and sell beekeeping supplies. We teach beginner beekeepers and provide beekeeper services and advice. And we are the Bee's Knees Club, the Facebook group. Great to have you joining us. We know life is busy, eh, Gary?
Yes, and we appreciate that you've taken the time to join us today, so thanks for being part of the Kiwimana Buzz.
Cheers, guys. And for you, you know that we have been known to go off in a tangent about other issues from time to time.
Well, you go off on tangents. I'm focused.
Focus. Well, okay then. All right, well, it's summer.
In New Zealand.
Yeah, it's awesome, eh, Gary? We've had some fantastic weather.
Bit of rain too, eh?
Yeah, it's like rain at night, then sunny days. The bees have been going bananas, that's for sure. With this change in weather, we've had some conditions where the bees have been trapped inside for a few days. And then when the sun comes out again and the rain stops, the bees are all flying around.
It's good to see, eh? Especially after a wet winter.
Yeah, and the thing is, you can always see when there's been a whole lot of new hatchings, eh? Because suddenly all the other bees start coming out and doing a flight and they're just hovering around the front of the hive. It's just awesome to watch.
Yes, and the bee yard is very busy, isn't it, on a sunny day?
Yeah, because we have got some beginner colonies that we're working on at the moment, so we'll tell you a bit more about that as we go along. Yeah, what have you been doing at Kiwimana, Gary?
I've updated the top beekeeping podcast listing on our website, and we've added the Contrary Beekeepers show, and check it out at kiwi.bz/top pods.
Can you just give us a little heads up on this one?
Yeah, this is a new one from Ohio, and let's listen to the promo.
Cool.
You're listening to the Contrary Beekeepers show. I'm Dan.
I'm Greg.
And I'm James.
Join us as we journey into beekeeping while we learn to be the change, one hive at a time.
This actually might be rather controversial.
I kind of have a palate fetish myself.
So you like the consistency aspect of it? That's a show in itself.
Yeah.
Well, I think
we had a bit of fun there.
Oh, absolutely. And it's fair to say that a lot of us beekeepers do have a bit of palate fetish.
Fetish.
Yes, because they are used often for what, Gary?
Often we use them for hive stands.
Indeed we do.
They last about a season and then they're rotten, aren't they?
And then, you just trip up and fall through them. And yes, those days of pallet hunting for me are over, and we have specifically made hive stands to deal with that kind of thing. So,
the worst ones with it. Remember the plastic ones, and they used to shatter.
Yeah, what a mess.
We need your help, you out there listening. We're good at having an end of the year survey.
Yeah, can you help?
Can you help us do the survey? We want to see what you like about the show and what you think we could improve on. It's kiwi.bz/survey.
Good name for it, Gary.
Yeah. I says what I mean and I do what I says.
Oh, well, that's good to hear, Z's.
Okay, and also, over the holiday period, we're going to be releasing a show with Nick Wallingford, who did the first New Zealand beekeeping podcast. It's a podcast series called The Way We Used to Be, and it's about the history of New Zealand beekeeping, and it's really interesting, eh?
Yeah, that is awesome. And yeah, we've had a good listen to this, and there's you guys will enjoy it. And there's some history buffs out there, I'm sure, that will love this.
Absolutely. And Nick used to be the president of the NBA in New Zealand, so he's a mover and shaker.
Yeah, National Bee Association, for those of you who don't know, which has changed now, eh?
It is.
It's now Appy NZ.
That's right, Appy NZ now. And these shows are only about 3 or 4 minutes long, so he's agreed that we can actually release it as one huge podcast, which is about 55 minutes, which has been finished today, eh? So we can get that out soon.
I was sweating out in the apiary, by the way, working my bees, giving them more space while you were sitting inside. And cool luxury. Luxury.
Well, editing has to happen, but so does bee stuff.
Of course it does. Of course, that's my priority. Of course, my girls.
And Merry Christmas. We're going to release a show, aren't we, over Christmas? And we're going to have our thoughts for the year then, I think.
Yeah, we'll do some bits and bobs for that, eh? Some bits and bobs and a bit of a nod to all those who we need to give a nod to.
Absolutely. And Margaret, I understand you had a visitor from Poland. What was that about?
Yes, we did. And it was Veronica. And she came she met Ben Moore from Australia, who told her about us. And so she got in touch through Ben and, arranged to come and meet us. And so she has some friends in New Zealand, so they helped her out. And, I went and did AFB checks so she could just come and see how we set up our hives. And for one of our customers, she came and helped out. And we went up to the local site up on the top of the hill, Puke Matakiho, saw the whole 360 degrees of Auckland City. So that was good for me too, because I haven't been up there for a while, so it was lovely. So I had a bit of enjoyment with that and a bit of fun, so that was awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome up there, eh? They've changed it, haven't they? Because they don't let you go up there after dark nowadays.
I think they close this time of the year at 9 o'clock. So, So that's a real sightseeing place, I think people should go to.
Is it still a one-way road up there?
Yep. One way up, one way down.
How did your split results go?
100%.
Wow, that's awesome.
I think a banana is in order for this.
Banana!
Yeah, crazy kiwimana banana awesomeness. And, the split results from our surviving colonies was 100%. The queens are all now laying and they're queen right. And so we have doubled our colonies to 6. We've also got the split colony in the education apiary as well. And so also, as we've gone through now through spring, sort of the breeding season sort of starting to, close down a bit in terms of swarming, hopefully. 2 colonies that I also had, which I referred to as weak, I did not split them. They are going really, really well, Gary, and they are building up significantly. So I think it's absolutely extraordinary that they have come this far.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good season, I have a feeling.
Yeah, I think it's already been a good season with all the colonies being, 100% mated and new season queens just kicking in. I don't know, I just felt really excited about this season.
And didn't you say that one hive's got a whole lot of honey already?
The colony that I split from one of the older queens, that was the rooftop colony that I got off a roof, that one is got a new beautiful queen and she is just laying like a trooper. And then in the top boxes, we've got nearly 10 frames of honey. So it is just awesome, man. I'm just so thrilled to bits.
Christmas honey.
Oh, yeah, we hope so. So we're looking at that in the next 2 weeks. The older queen colonies, which are the surviving queens from last year, well, I have found some varroa in the drone cells, so I'm just putting together my oxalic acid vaporization treatment cycle, and I've planned it in line with where the eggs are. So when the eggs are, I'll do my timing from the eggs, which I will do 2 treatments. So I'll do them a few days apart until day 9 when they're capped, and then I'll wait 2 weeks, and then I'll treat 2 times again, so that'll catch anything that hatches out of the cell with which emerges with the bees. So the varroa should be really knocked back that little, get that little thing. Anyway.
Family show.
This kind of thing requires taking notes and really timing everything really well. And don't forget, guys, that if you're using oxalic acid vaporization treatment or sublimation, the more boxes you have, the more it dissipates. So try to concentrate it by double dosing. And we have established and shared with you that you can't overdose with oxalic acid.
On vaporization.
On vaporization, yeah.
If you should really try and reduce them down to, a couple of boxes, before you do it. But it's hard to do that when you've got full of supers,
Yeah, so I don't do that. I double dose. It'll still affect the brood, and you've just got to keep managing it. So we have ways that we do that. Like we've talked about sugar shake. We've talked about having a mesh baseboard with an inspection tray underneath and doing drone management frames, plus doing cell checks. So, all those things together you should be doing to monitor, especially if you want to be organic and get your bees through summer and that. Or you could do Apilifer, which is an organic thyme oil, camphor and eucalyptus, but it does flavour the honey. So it's very personal about whether that's important to you or not. It doesn't taste awful. It just tastes a bit like mouthwash, but it has to be a little bit concentrated. So that's how it works.
It's Listerine, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. I didn't bother me, actually, to be honest, but there you go. So moving on.
Beginner kits. How's that going?
Yeah, good. I've been building woodware, oiling and setting up in the apiary, and we've moved because we got a whole lot of nucleus colonies in. We got about 15, and so I've sold some of them, and they've already gone on to their new owners, their beginners, and then the rest of them I'm moving into single full depth boxes and setting them up, and gosh, they are growing fast, and I was a bit worried that I might have been a bit late, but the queens are all still there and they're doing so well. And with all this huge nectar collection and capping of honey, it's crazy kiwimana bananas buzz out there. So I'm excited. So I'm sorry to go on, but I really am so excited for this season, and the next step for me is setting up some demonstration hives.
We're going to do a video, aren't we, of all the different ways you manage the hive?
Yeah, we're doing it to go over all the equipment and everything that you need to manage a hive well, in my view, how to monitor varroa and, things to help make a beginner beekeeper confident when working a beehive. So we'll be working on that video together to show those methods and equipment that we use, and it's basically part of the integrated pest management programs that we put together for managing our hives.
Awesome, and we'll be talking about that in the future podcast, or if you're a subscriber to us on the YouTubes, you'll get that first.
Oh, it's still a work in progress though, eh?
Oh yes, maybe a while. We'll see.
We'll see.
AFB. Have you found any AFB cases?
Only one, which is fantastic. It was in central Auckland. So overall, pretty good result, eh?
Yeah, it's good. Well, not for them, but good
not for
all the
them.
other people. Awesome.
It's very sad, and sometimes these things happen. Just got to keep going, guys. If this happens to you, just keep going. Don't give up.
And what do you think the biggest job for a beginner beekeeper is?
Yeah, I reckon at this point with some of my beginners, it's managing the nectar flow. And with the way the season is going, they could sort of get ahead of them, ahead of the beginners. What happens when that goes on?
Oh, lots of nectar in the brood frames often.
Yeah, that's it.
Swarming possibly.
Yeah.
Always got to anticipate what the bee's doing next, don't you?
Yeah, and swarming is a little different because swarming, they will prepare a queen cell, they will get all their resources together and they will prepare to leave. But generally when a colony is, the technical term is honey bound, it's exactly what you said, Gary, that it's got nectar amongst the brood. So therefore, what happens then? The queen can't lay. So she can't prepare a cell, there'll be no eggs, and there'll only be patches of capped brood left, and your hive will look really busy one day, and the next day you go out there, and what's going to happen, Gary?
Well, if they've swarmed, they'll be sitting in a tree, won't they? Or worse, sitting in the neighbour's tree.
Well, my point is that they will be gone.
Gone.
You know, I just want to make it clear that it's not a swarming instinct thing that's going on when this happens. It's actually leaving because the queen has nowhere to lay. So you will not have any resources to build a colony again.
Is that more of an absconding thing, is it?
That's exactly what it is, Gary. So absconding means there's no resources left to get a hive up and running again.
No, that's not good.
Not good. So I think this is going to be a big job for all of us this season. Yeah, we've even heard on the Facebooks, some people are already extracting. Are you one of those people who's extracting? So if you are, awesome. And then I just want to say, yeehaw! This is an awesome season and I love it. And what's this other thing that as we move along, Gary, what's the next thing that you've got there?
Oh, there's going to be a photo there of us and Veronica at the having cups of coffee.
Awesome. You know, always good to have a cup.
Always cups of coffee and always good to have cake.
Cake. Oh, my goodness me. Cake and eat it too. But anyway, we were talking about how there's such a good flow on, and we just need to say, New Zealand beekeepers,
toot toot,
local climates can vary, so this risk can affect some areas more than others. And what is this risk, Gary?
Tootin toxin from the tutu bush.
Yes, you got it in one, Gary. But there's several factors that need to come into play for this risk to become really high for Kiwi beekeepers.
And this is having a fluffy bum.
That's the one.
That's a bit personal, isn't it?
Yes, well, number one is the tutu bush, so you have to be able to identify that. Then the nectar that's produced is tootin toxin, and the way it is distributed is through the vine hopper, as some people call a fluffy bum. And then the fourth thing is drought and hot, dry weather.
Which I think we're going to have this summer.
It feels like it, eh? It really does. So if these four things are going on in a season, the risk of tootin, as I said, is tootin poisoning is very high.
Yes, and in the bonus show we're talking about rhododendrons, aren't they? Which is similar, they have similar issues overseas.
Oh, that's interesting. I look forward to hearing about that.
What is a tutu bush?
Okay, well, this is a native New Zealand plant. It usually is around, well, they say waterways, but I've seen it up on hills. It could be anywhere. But we put a link on here with photos and information about this plant. So have a click on that, guys, and then you can see it and you'll be able to identify it if it's near you. Now, in terms of this, what are the rules, Gary?
The rules are you must have any honey tested that you take off after Christmas or December 31st. Yeah, if you're going to sell honey or honeycomb, you must get your honey tested or tootin tested. And it's more risky in honeycomb, isn't it? Because you get a full frame of poison. Tootin toxin, when present in honey, is poisonous to humans, not bees. And cut comb made from rust rounds poses a higher risk, or any form of cut comb.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. You're right.
I mean, there was a case in the 30s where a elephant actually died from eating a tootin bush, so it's pretty lethal stuff.
It is, guys. So I'd say be wary on this one. So the risk posed is poisoning of humans, which could cause death. So that's why those rules are in place. So take your honey off before the 31st of December and you should be right.
Yep. And if you got comb honey, it may be just worth getting it tested anyway.
I think so, unless you've got other plans.
You mean malicious plans?
No, not me. I never said a thing. Anyway, let's move on, Gary. What's next?
Well, we'd like to give a shout out to Gudny Hunter this month. And not only is she a supporter through Patreon, she's supporting us by purchasing our locally sourced produced products and volunteers to help with you, doesn't she, Margaret, in the workshop?
Awesome. I think we need a bananas for this one.
Banana!
Yeah, she's been helping me in the workshop and in the apiary. And, you know, we also have other supporters who support us through Patreon. And it's support from folks like Gudny that inspires us to keep creating content and motivates us to produce products because we know that they're working, we get them to test them, and then we promote them as locally made products. And with support, we also teach and help our local beginner beekeepers. So that's sort of our things. And we also want to save bees by helping people keep bees alive.
Yeah, I think that's what our motivation is. We like helping people keep bees, don't we?
Yeah, and, you know, some people say, you know, learn by your mistakes. I say learn with advice from people who've made the mistakes.
Yeah, it's less expensive.
It's less expensive.
Learn by watching kiwimana's mistakes.
Yeah. And we'll provide the solutions because we've worked it out. So we're feeling really happy and confident about what's going on here for us. And with the bees, survival is just, Gary, do I have to say it again? I'm just so excited for this season and what we've achieved. I'm just thrilled to bits.
Cool. And I think we're making less mistakes because we've been doing it a lot longer, eh? I think you get better, don't you?
I think that sometimes when I see all the conversations that go on between beekeepers and people arguing about stuff and trying to, you know, share different information, I think what I've come to understand is that sometimes it pays to listen to people who have been doing it for a while because they don't make those comments lightly, eh? Like, we know what works for our girls now. We know that, you know, setting up a hive is really important. So we have learnt over these last 10 years really important key things that will help bees survive. And one of the things that we talk on as we go along in this podcast is about honey. And if you've got a strong colony, then you'll get lots of honey production and you will be able to save some of that honey for the bees. So, yeah, it's been interesting ride, eh, Gary?
It certainly has, Margaret. Yes, it has.
And moving on then, Gary. Yeah, so it's been absolutely awesome, guys. So feeling good.
Kiwimana, Global Roving Reporters. And this week we have reports from Portland, Oregon, Sheffield in England, and Ontario in Canada. Let's first of all hear from Mandy in the Pacific Northwest in Portland, Oregon.
Hello, this is Mandy Shaw from Beekeeper Confidential, waggling from the northwestern United States. Cold and flu season is going strong, which is why I sound like I have a nose full of bumblebees. I want to take a moment and talk about what has happened in this past month down in Butte County, California. The Camp Fire, which has become the deadliest fire in California history, started west of Chico on November 8th and has destroyed over 150,000 acres. The fire spread so quickly that residents didn't have time to rescue their pets, their livestock, or their bees. The human death toll now sits at 85, and hundreds are still unaccounted for. The fire is now 100% contained, but it will be some time before we fully understand the enormity of loss that they have suffered. If you are able to, please consider making a donation. You can visit ButteCountyRecovers.org to learn more. Our temperatures here have finally dipped to the low 30s overnight and the upper 40s Fahrenheit in the daytime, cold enough to prompt the bees to cluster and stop brood production. At last, it's the optimal time to knock down the varroa mites with oxalic acid treatments. I've insulated my hives and given them sugar cakes for emergency food, and as I wait for springtime, I'll be watching my friends on the other side of the world catch swarms and partake in all the glories of springtime beekeeping. Until next time, may the buzz be with you.
I love that. I love that. Very good. And I hope that bumblebee gets removed really quick from her nose.
Yeah, she sounds bad, eh? She's suffering there.
Indeed.
It's not good. And those fires are awful, aren't they?
Yeah, that is...
So 85 people died and a lot of houses gone, eh? It's terrible.
Yeah, it just sounds like a nightmare, an absolute nightmare, but a real nightmare. Yeah, our thoughts do go out, and you've got a link there, Gary?
I'll put a link there to that site that Mandy mentioned if you can help them out there. That'd be awesome.
That'll be awesome, guys.
Yes, now we're moving to Ontario from Yolanda, and she's actually lost her voice, but she still emailed in a report. This sickness is going around, eh? All these beekeepers are getting sick.
Yeah, it sounds terrible. So are we reading this one out, Gary?
We're reading this one out because Yolanda can't speak at the moment.
Okay, well, thanks so much, Yolanda, for putting this together. And here we go. So this is Yoli Bear reporting from Toronto, Ontario in Canada. She goes on to say, it was snowing today and currently the weather has been unpredictably cold. My bees are not in my backyard. They are in fact in a whole other city 4 hours drive away. The weather there is crazier than in Toronto. I never checked the weather before I had bees, and now I can only care about the weather around my bees. Yesterday was a crazy 19 Celsius or minus 19 Celsius, which is minus 2 Fahrenheit, according to her phone, while tonight is a mild 0 Celsius.
Oh, balmy.
19 degrees Fahrenheit. So, anyway, that is in Frontenac County, and it's just the beginning, and it's not even December yet. Around town on the beekeeping scene, some bee stores are closing temporarily for the winter season, while a few are open year-round. I think most of the beekeepers have wrapped their hives nice and cozy and put the girls to bed for the winter, and we'll be looking forward to seeing them in spring. We have 4 months to wait. Over to you, Gary and Margaret.
Well, thanks, Yolanda. That's awesome. You sound a lot like Margaret. Oh, just being silly. No, that's awesome. And Yolanda's actually got a podcast.
Silly is good for you.
It is. Yolanda's actually got a podcast, and we'll talk about that later. Now we're hearing from Britt Mana, otherwise known as Sheffield, from the greatest beekeeper in Sheffield, Christopher Brown. Let's see what he's up to.
Hi Gary and Margaret, it's Chris from Sheffield in the UK. In terms of beekeeping over here, I've not done much for the past few weeks. The weather turned pretty cold, the sort of beginning of November really, and as a result I haven't needed to go up to the apiary and do a lot. I just head up normally now the cold weather's set in every few weeks just to check and make sure the honey stores aren't getting light. I've got 3 colonies in my apiary at the moment, and it's probably the best ever situation I've been in going into winter. They're all strong, but not overly strong, as in they're not going to sort of tear through the honey stores and sort of starve, hopefully. So we'll see. Every winter's different. You know, the cold winters actually seem to sort of work better for the bees than the mild ones, because in the mild ones they seem to head out flying and then really sort of burn through the stores a lot quicker. And it's I'm usually pretty good these days at keeping on top of the store situation, but they do tend to go through it pretty quick. And I use fondant exclusively in the winter these days. Yeah, and it seems to work pretty well. So I'm just looking forward to seeing how they go through winter. and I'll be heading up this weekend to check on them, just make sure that they're not getting light already. But I don't expect that to be the case. They had a couple of supers worth last time I checked each, so that was a decent amount of honey, and I'd expect them to not have sort of got near to consuming that yet. Other than that, hope you guys are good and enjoying your summer, and I'll hopefully speak to you soon. Cheers.
Last one is at the bar.
It sounds like Chris was in the pub.
Awesome. And you know what? As I come out of the apiary and I have my skin coloured with the rays of sunshine and the beads of sweat fall from my brow, I will think of you in Sheffield.
In the pub. Down pub with Whippet.
Whippet good. Oh, that's a
Okay.
song, isn't it?
No, it's a dog.
Cool song.
Whippet's a dog.
No, it's Whippet's a song.
It is a song. Yeah, so the using fondant, is that the same as sugar cakes that Mandy was talking about? I think it is, eh?
Could well be. I know that some Kiwi beekeepers have been feeding pollen stuff through winter as well. The winter just gone.
Oh, okay.
So it seems to be moving across the whole beekeeping world. I'm not such a fan of doing anything like that because I don't really know what's in those things, even though they say this, that and the other. I'm not 100% sure, but...
Well, if you make them yourself, you know what's in it, don't you?
Well, actually, that's a really good point, and yeah, that's a good point, Gary.
Yeah, and it sounds like Chris's bees are strong and he's got them all sorted out for winter, so all tucked away.
Yeah, and he's got some honey stores on there as well as the fondant. So well done, and yeah, congratulations, because, it has been tough the last few years and we're feeling really confident, and yeah, we wish that the same for all you guys out there who are coming into winter, and just hope you got your varroa all sorted and food sorted, and then I think we'll be sweet next year.
And you just keep warm over your winter there, Chris, and stick by that fire in the pub, and we'll have a good time.
Yes, and our greetings to the family.
Yes, indeed. Shout out Merry Christmas to everyone in Britmana. And I just wanted to, I forgot to say something. Yolanda.
Did you forget?
Her bees are 4 hours away. That's a long drive, eh?
I agree. I think that is a long way. Not sure why that is, why they are so far away. Maybe it's situations at home don't have room for bees. I don't know. So we'd be interested to find out about that, Yolanda.
What should you be doing with your bees?
Okay, well, we've sort of touched on some of this for New Zealand folks. If you have swarms, they should now have settled into strong brood patterns, building up well and lots of nectar collection. And we have found that some of you are catching swarms and then on-selling to others. And our advice for those buying a swarm, or even someone saying they have a colony for sale, just make sure before you pick it up that there is healthy cap brood which has been AFB checked, and the beekeeper that is selling it is certified or has paperwork that can prove that it has been signed off by a person who has done their DECA certification, which is a certificate of inspection which is done annually. So just be aware of that, guys, that everything that you buy, you should be able to get it for them to explain that they are disease-free, well, at least visually. If you want to get them tested for AFB, you can actually do that, eh? You can get
those kits, but I've heard they're not that reliable, but I don't know. But I guess if you really are fanatical about that, then you can do that, because most DECA checks are actually visual inspections of AFB. And generally, once they leave that apiary, they can't guarantee that there isn't going to be AFB around your area. So it really is something that is just part of what you have to be aware of. Anyway, our moving along from the DECA side of things and AFB checks, yeah, just make sure what you're buying is healthy.
And then, as we said, moving along to the top priority being space management for everybody. And this is sort of the next phase because the breeding season, as I said, is changing now. So there's going to be ongoing brood being produced through summer. But the managing space is all about the flow now. So once your hives are all queen right, your next job is making sure she has space to lay and that there's plenty of room for nectar collection. So manipulating frames for maximum drawing of comb as well. So you might need to rotate them as they are partly drawn and some are fuller on the other side, that kind of thing. And I think one of the pieces of advice I would say is not to add too much space too quickly. So it encourages the capping of honey frames because last season the colonies had so much room they didn't seem to cap the honey as well. So this year I'm just really keeping an eye on them to make sure they are getting more capping done before I add too many extra frames or manipulate them too much. That kind of management will require regular monitoring, okay, so as not to risk your colony absconding. So it's a fine balance for that one, eh? And we already talked about absconding, so you guys are pretty clear on that one. These are things that are happening at the moment.
Just a point about when you're buying bees, just 2 tips. As Margaret said, that try and get them inspected for AFB before you buy them. If the person selling them isn't happy for you to do that, then walk away, I would say. Wouldn't you, Margaret?
Yeah, to me that would be like a warning bell, eh?
And the other thing is if the person that's selling your bees wants to drop them off and you don't know where they live, or they want to meet you at a car park or anything like that, yeah, just that rings alarm bells as well.
Absolutely.
Because these kind of people are doing stuff and they're just disappearing in the night. So to me, it's better if you go to a recognised bee supplier or even go to your local bee club or bee association. If you're in England or in America, just, do that. Buy them from them.
Yeah, I think that here in New Zealand, because of this craziness to do with beekeeping and manuka and everything like that, there is a real, very distasteful thing going on where people are exploiting beginner beekeepers, and it really does rub me the wrong way to hear of people getting ripped off. So we have talked about this before, but guys, we talk about it because you need to know that if you're starting beekeeping, there are some people out there who will take your money and not give you,
what you've paid for.
Exactly. So we're just saying buyer beware, but also educate yourself, guys, on those people that are going to provide you with quality product and properly checked.
If you know someone that's looking at getting into beekeeping, tell them about our podcast and play this episode or this section to them. That'd be good. So they might learn things.
Yeah.
And what's happening in the UK? So Chris has been our UK reporter from the pub. It sounds like things are going well. And in the USA...
And that's for his Sheffield area. I mean, things could be different somewhere else, but that's for his area. So that's, always good to hear how that's going.
In the USA, we didn't hear from Avery, from Rascals Apiary. They're obviously busy with Christmas planning. Hopefully you guys are all okay. But we got the news from Mandy, so that's awesome. Yeah,
so that'll cover that. And didn't we get a little shout out from someone in Jamaica?
Coming up later in the show.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. Okay, blog recap, top content by your vote for the last month. Okay, number 1.
Is beekeeping the antidote for the 21st century?
Yep, it is. Oh, sorry. That was a question.
I think so too.
And we talked to Nigel Costley from Beekeeper from Nelson. That was really popular, eh?
Oh, yeah, he's a great interview, eh?
Great interview and some fantastic stories about turning into a Morris dancer.
That's right. And, being a bee bore.
Exactly.
Which I think we're all a little guilty of, Gary.
Yes. You've got to watch that glazed over look.
Yes, indeed. As soon as you see it, move on, guys.
Anyway, check that one out. It's at kiwi.bz/Nigel. And Roundup. Is it safe around bees? This was our last show. Not a lot of feedback from people, but it was popular nonetheless.
Yeah, it was popular. I think that it's sort of knowledge. It's creating awareness, and we're going to keep doing it, guys, because it is really important to understand what chemicals are doing to the natural world.
Yeah, we got some feedback on Twitter, and someone said, of course it isn't. It's safe around bees. So they answered the question.
So Roundup, another word for glyphosate. The patent on glyphosate is what, Gary?
Is expiring, so you'll see it in other products too, because I've seen it in other products as well.
So be aware, guys, and keep your bees safe. And I was asked today by one of my beginners about spraying and will it harm their bees. And my answer...
Spraying water? Okay.
Spraying water, yeah, well, as you say.
Not directly on the bees, but...
Yes, maybe a fine mist. Anyway, as you digress, yes, I said it is harmful to them. It's also harmful to waterways, so don't do it near drains. And it's pretty clear on the instructions not to spray it in drains which lead to waterways.
What were they spraying, but?
Glyphosate.
Oh, no, it's not good.
Okay.
Time to listen to our last show.
Yeah. And the other thing is that they don't realise that they're spraying the flowers or the broadleafs, which have flowers, and the bees are going to those flowers, so they can easily pick up those chemicals and take them back to the hive.
Because broadleaf includes clover, doesn't it?
Yep.
What's wrong with clover?
And dandelions. Most of the weeds that are broad are considered not good for a lawn.
Yep. Be a bee lover, plant some clover.
Yeah, and have a broadleaf lawn.
Or in our case, have a jungle lawn.
Jungle lawn, yeah. There's lots of adventures going on in the jungle.
The next article we did was 8 spring flowers that attracted Australian native bees. This is going to be really useful for you guys in Australia. And I think a lot of those things you can actually grow here, eh?
Yeah, pretty similar. Sometimes there's a drier situation going on at Aussie. But yeah, they're talking about Australian native bees, so that's a great article.
Yes, and that article was written by Madison Smith, who lives in Australia, so she knows all about the plants there. And there's some great photos there, eh?
Yeah, fabulous. I think they're gorgeous photos. So a really popular one, that one. And yeah, thanks, guys, for having a look at that one, because it definitely is something to enjoy, I think, in some ways.
And get planting.
Get planting.
And the
but
final...
no, it's not good time to plant now, is it? It's a bit too dry. We usually have to plant in around October in New Zealand if we're getting ready for the new season.
Oh, okay. Well, get seed buying.
That's it, sorted. So what's the other one that was really popular?
Well, that was about telling the bees, and that was about when someone dies in the family, you've got to tell the bees. It was the bonus buzz. Available.
You don't tell the bees, you tell the beekeeper who's passed bees.
Oh, I say tell all the bees.
Okay.
If you want to learn about that, you need to be a supporter. Anyway, and what products have we been using in our work? I've been getting the hand of this new recorder. I've had no complaints, so it must be sounding okay.
Sounds okay to me too, and I love the fact that all these new gadgets you've got are making it sound schmacko.
Awesome. What have you been using?
Well, basically just building a lot of stuff from our kit sets for our beginners and oiling them up and getting them in place, and heaps of wooden frames, obviously. Lots of wax. I've been using heaps of wax because we prefer to use just woodware, and we oil the boxes with boiled linseed oil, and yeah, then just the gears, the accessories like wire, acrid hair, glue, nails and staples, and also the lawnmower.
Have you been trying to tackle the jungle?
I've tackled some of the jungle. Don't want to tackle all of the jungle because then we'll have no more adventures.
Yeah. You've got to watch that Amazonian village in the jungle.
Yeah, you've got to be careful.
Get a bit crazy.
And you don't want to hurt all the natives, do you?
No.
That's right, because they're the backbone of our weed forest and our feed for our bees.
Well, the bees are covered it. They're all over the grass, aren't they?
Yeah, they're loving it. So it's awesome, guys. Monitoring is one of the key things. So I've been using my inspection boards as well a lot, just checking. I've been oiling them really heavily with olive oil and capturing, mite counts. So, yeah, that's been really good. And not too many mites falling, actually.
Is that where the olive oil's going?
Yeah, sorry, we haven't been able to use it in the kitchen.
Beekeeping news. News you can reuse. I don't know. First story, Belfast Hydebank is a hive of activity as behind bars beekeeping creates a buzz. What's this about, Margaret?
Well, it's about a lot of communities around the world now. The government's agencies are hoping to help those who have crossed the line and been put in prison. But this is by creating a new buzz for them. So working on bees together is now appearing to break down some barriers and offering some new opportunities to these people. So it goes on to say, there's a buzz around Hydebank Wood Prison these days, with beekeeping now a popular pastime. A novel scheme introduced to the Belfast jail in conjunction with the Ulster Beekeepers Association has started with a couple of hives and has proved a big hit with prisoners and staff. So Hydebank is unique because no other detention centre in the UK or Ireland houses both adult women. There were 61 female residents on Tuesday and young offenders, 99 of them, who have been sentenced or are on remand. So this is giving these guys an opportunity to do some beekeeping. And you had an interesting comment that you made, Gary, about what you saw in this article.
One of the instructors kept getting stung on the feet because she didn't wear her gumboots. Maybe she's wearing her jandals. It sounds like an instructor I know.
I have a really sad tale because I must tell you that rather sadly, my jandal broke.
I thought it was stolen by a dog.
No, that was my other jandal.
So you've got no jandals.
I've got no jandals, guys. My faithful pair broke, and then today when I was working with some new beginners, their dog stole my jandal.
Oh, we'll have to set up a GoFundMe site for your new jandals.
I know. Parting is such sweet sorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
And that they also do goats and sheep at this place too, so it sounds like a really cool place, eh?
It sounds like they really want to give some really different ways of being in the world, and it sounds fantastic. And there was no feedback, but there is feedback from Margaret, and footwear loss is a very important issue when beekeeping.
Absolutely. Well, we need to find some other alternative to gumboots because I find gumboots, you tend to cook your feet.
Oh, get roasted in them. Anyway, guys, thanks for that. And that was a good article just showing that there are different ways to approach rehabilitation. So this article is about Sue Hubbell, who wrote of bees and self-reliance. She died at 83.
Yes, sad to report that the author and beekeeper Sue Hubbell has passed away at age 83 in Maine. One of her famous beekeeping books, which is one of my favourite books, is A Book of Bees. And quoting from the article, we've got here Sue Hubbell, who wrote quietly penetrating books and essays about her life as a beekeeper, a curious wanderer and a divorced woman navigating middle-aged, died on October 13.
Well, this is very sad, and the contributions from these books has obviously affected you, eh?
Well, it was one of my early books I read, probably that and Beekeeping for Dummies is probably the first books I read about beekeeping. So, yeah, it's a great book, eh? It's kind of a story, and it combines with beekeeping knowledge as well. She was forced to take over the family beekeeping business after she divorced her husband, and they were beekeeping in the Ozarks Mountains in America.
Okay.
So she became a very self-reliant lady, fixing her own cars and doing all the beekeeping stuff and fixing trucks. And she even wrote a book about how to find the best pie on Highway 60.
A woman of my own heart.
Exactly.
And what's this quote that you really love, Gary?
I like this quote from Sue, her book, and it says, I like pulling on a baggy bee suit, forgetting myself and getting as close to the bees' lives as they will let me, remembering in the process that there is more to life than the merely human. And that's a quote from the Book of Bees and How to Keep Them. So that's a great book, isn't it? We'll put a link in there to the thing, or if you search for that on Amazon, I'm sure you'll find it. And she unfortunately had dementia, and I think last year she actually wandered off and they couldn't find her until about 11 o'clock at night. So she decided, rather than descend into dementia and be institutionalised, she just stopped eating 34 days before she died. So that's so she kind of decided how to go, didn't she?
Yeah, she took control of how she was going to pass. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and she described that her ending as a triumph. But yeah, sad for the family, sad for all her people that liked her writing. So yeah, sad. And we got some feedback from this.
From Elizabeth McMonagle, she said, "Wonderful woman. Hear, hear."
Yes, I agree. So check out her books, and she's got several books, and she also was a writer for the New York Times as well, so she's got some articles there as well. Okay, and this next story is, what kind of sugar should I feed my bees?
This is from October this year, and in my view, none. That's the end of the article. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, guys.
In an ideal world, I agree with you.
Yeah, well, let's let the articles talk before you give your opinion, because I've got some good things to say on this one.
Too.
But it's important to realise that there are many things that can impact why a beekeeper would want or needs to feed honeybees sugar syrup. Want says to me, strictly in it for the honey, taking all the honey off, or overbreeding and producing nucleus colonies which aren't getting real honey, they're getting sugar syrup feeds. So that, for me, is disappointing. But then there's the other side of it where it's need. The need says to me it could be because of climatic conditions. There could be no nectar, short nectar flow in some countries, or sudden dearth, so there is no nectar. A weak colony, so the need for energy to create wax production. So I can understand that side of things. But is it desperate measures or lazy, greedy beekeepers?
Mix of both. The other reason why you feed bees also is if it gets robbed out. Well, it is a good article, and it's got a list of all the different kinds of sugars and sweeteners you can feed them and not feed them. And quoting from the article, you have decided you need to feed your bees. Maybe you've just installed a package in a new hive, and they have to build out all the frames. Maybe you've just moved a hive to a new location, and you want to give them a boost. Maybe you caught a late season swarm, and they need help to be ready for winter.
Whether you are feeding dry sugar, candy boards, or syrup, it is important to choose the correct sugar. Choosing the wrong sugar can make your bees very sick and result in poisoning or nosema. So which one should you use?
Really? A sugar causes nosema?
I don't know about that, but
I've never heard that before.
I've heard that the wrong sugars can cause diarrhea.
Yeah, but that's not nosema, is it?
No.
Anyway, okay, talking points. So many types of sugar. White sugar is the best, as closest to nectar. Yep, that's true.
Okay, and the other things is that different types of sugar can cause different health issues for the honeybees, like we mentioned was diarrhea.
Yeah, like brown sugar, eh?
Yeah, brown sugar as opposed to raw sugar. And also the other thing that I was thinking is that this is more American-based, this article, because they talk about packaged bees. So the thing is, you've got to make sure that you know which sugar they're talking about. If you go online and you keep looking at articles from America, sometimes they call their sugars different things. So be very careful about that as well. So the lingo might be a little different. And there are a lot of costs involved with buying the sugar and taking time to prepare all these syrups and everything. So I go back to my first point. Why not just save honey for your girls?
Well, in the perfect world, that's right. I agree.
Yeah, and your belief is that if your bees are starving, you have no choice.
That's right. I don't think you have. Unless you've got some honey stored from a disease-free hive somewhere else.
Yeah.
You've got to keep your bees alive, don't you? And if you're a commercial guy, you can't let all your bees starve, can you?
No.
Because sugar's cheaper than bees, isn't it?
Oh, that's a good point. Anyway, this is a good one, guys, and we got some feedback on that. Isaac Bennett said, natural sugars, apple juice is a good start.
Isaac, if you're listening to this, I'd love to know what you mean by that, because, yeah, I don't...
It interests me.
How do you feed apple juice to a bee? Unless you put it do you dry it out? Or do you put it in a feeder? I've never heard that either.
I'd love to hear more about that. And Kerry Jo Thomas says...
None.
And I said amen, Kerry.
Okay, next story.
Okay, Gary. A flower map to help New Zealand beekeepers?
Yes, is this a good idea? Margaret, what is your thought on this idea? But I'll tell you more about it.
I'm listening.
And this came from the Changing World podcast, which is a podcast put out by Radio New Zealand. And it's got some good stories in it, eh? This one's about beekeeping. And quoting from the article, as beehive numbers continue to skyrocket off the back of the Manuka honey boom, scientists, iwi, and industry groups are coming together to study the honey-producing potential of New Zealand's native vegetation. So I've got a little quote here from the podcast. Have a listen to this.
And there's a lot of interest in finding ways to gather that honey more effectively. That's why scientists, beekeepers, Māori landowners and software engineers are all working together to create something called the Honey Landscape Map. The dream is that this map will reveal the honey-producing potential of native stands of vegetation all around New Zealand.
Wow, sounds awesome. And they reckon it'll be completed in the next 5 years. So we'll have to wait and see, eh?
This really excites me, and I'd be really keen to see that. And I suppose it'd be the further thing, like once you map it, then start taking honey off at those certain flowering times and then see what honey is produced and then match it up with those flowerings and then maybe get them tested. And gosh, it's just a big, huge thing that they're looking at. It sounds awesome.
Yes, and this podcast is about 20 minutes, so it's a great listen, and it's got some good ideas. And I learnt that the Maori word for honey is mere.
Mere. Oh, very good. And I didn't know that. It's quite awesome. Mere.
Yep. And over 100,000 new hives were registered last year. Wow, it's crazy, isn't it? And this work's going to really help commercial beekeepers finding new locations, isn't it?
Well, I don't know whether that's such a good idea, really, but there you go.
Well, the other thing is that the guy from the iwi there, he said, and the iwi is tribe in New Zealand for you overseas people, and he said that new bylaws may be passed to limit the number of hives in certain areas based on the map on how many hives an area can sustain. So that's going to stop people putting hives near your boundaries and stuff like that.
Well, so how are they going to do that? Are they going to... Oh, I just wonder about that.
Councils are going to pass bylaws.
Yeah, but the point is who's going to judge who's allowed to have what where? Is it like if you've already got beehives, you'll have a higher priority, but if they're a commercial output and the government's supporting them, will they say you can't have your bees there anymore?
I guess it's the first person to apply. I'm guessing that when these bylaws are proposed, but then people have the right to make their submissions and say what they think. And you can do that, Margaret.
Yeah, well, I will be if that's the case, because I think that there's a lot of hobbyists out there that may get pushed out of things because they're trying to, I don't know, I just had an uneasy feeling about that one.
Well, I don't think a hobbyist with 2 hives is the problem. I think it's a guy with 100 hives.
So you're saying that it could be used to stop overstocking on
Overstocking land, yeah.
Well, that might be the other side of the coin.
Could be.
Okay, so I reckon this will be interesting to see what happens, and hopefully they put it out to the public in big ways so that we can have more information about what these new bylaws they're looking at.
Absolutely, and so I highly recommend you click on that link there to have a listen to the full podcast because you can learn a lot more. And we had no feedback about that, but it's still an important issue, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's still being fed around the beekeeping community, so I'm sure we're going to hear more about this as we go along.
If the problem continued for the bees, I don't know if they would have made it.
That's right.
Yeah, so what's the number one beekeeping problem that we have been challenged with this podcast, Gary?
When people join our newsletter, we ask them what their number one beekeeping problem. And this month, the number one beekeeping problem from Alan and Laura has been the acute problem is learning how to deal with common parasites, and mainly varroa mites. And Colin Smith also, his number one problem is staying on top of varroa. So I say, we kind of touched this quite a lot in the introduction, didn't we? So we won't, you talked about IPM, you talked about mesh boards, you talked about drone management frames, counting mites, making sure you're counting on them, making sure you're constantly checking, treating if needed, if you treat hot bees, and, just keeping aware, I think.
So if they're asking about varroa issues or parasites, common parasites, I'd agree that the varroa would be the number one parasite that is the biggest threat. So understanding what a varroa mite is really important. It is a parasite. It does feed on the abdomen of the honeybee and feeds on the fat, and then transmits viruses into those fat cells on the abdomen, and therefore that's where the ill health can come. So the first thing is the things that you have done over the years, Gary. You've created some products that are part of an integrated pest management program, or IPM, and so you've been promoting them. So we have got lots of articles about those tools, and even the products that we sell on our page will tell you about how we use it to monitor and look out for this little parasitic
bugger.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
And
so
you've done a lot of research into this over the years, haven't you?
I have. There's lots of articles on our website. If you search for doing a sugar shake, things like that, there's lots of different ways to do stuff.
Yeah, so there's like oxalic acid vaporization is something that I use to really knock back the hives, and I use it on a regular basis. And then there's other things that people use to monitor. So we have got lots of information on our website for this, but the key is to keep on top of it and knock it back. And the way we do that is by using the oxalic acid vaporization method and then monitoring. And as soon as we see any mites from a mite drop, about 5 or 6, we will treat.
Absolutely. And the other thing is always assume your hive is full of mites.
That's a really good point, because you're onto it, Gary, because in New Zealand we always have foraging bees, so they're always going to pick up varroa. And if you've got neighbours that aren't doing any treatments, you could
Yeah, but I'm referring to people that say I don't see mites on my hives. So
I see. Okay,
they just think that there's none in there, and I think, well, every hive's got them. Unless you're lucky enough to live in Australia.
Yeah, and the other thing is if you get to a stage where you're seeing deformed wings, that means you haven't been keeping on top of the mites and you haven't been knocking them back enough, and it's been in the brood. So it's, 21 days at least that it's been in the hive. So I think it's very good for you to be aware. Was it Alan?
Alan and Laura and Colin Smith.
Yeah, Alan and Laura and Colin Smith. I think the thing is to be aware how to find it and to see it. We have some articles on the website. Infested is one of them, and also an article about remedial action. So those articles will be linked on this, but yeah, it's the good question, really good question, and
good luck.
Yeah, we've managed to get this sorted for us, and the key is monitoring and knocking back.
Yes, and what is your number one beekeeping problem? Tell us on kiwi.bz/problem or leave a message on our speak pipe.
Awesome, guys. So, wow, this has been such an awesome podcast, Gary? With tension and,
almost violence.
Anger in the corner, and
technical issues.
So we've overcome them all, and I just want to say I love your work, Gary.
Thank you, Margaret. And if you've got urgent issues over the Christmas holidays or any other time, check out the Bees Knees Facebook group because you'll get some good answers there. And now we're going to move on. Feedback from you guys. This is a great part of the show where we get feedback from you guys.
Woohoo!
From you guys. Okay, we've got a message here from Jamaica. Let's have a listen to this.
Hi, this is Marlon Cole from Jamaica, the beautiful sunny island. It's a pleasure to be on your program. Please keep on sending me all the information you can. I am an absolutely new beekeeper and would like to know all I possibly can about it. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too, Marlon. It's awesome. And I've heard Jamaica's a beautiful place to live. So, yeah, awesome. We have to tell us how your bees are getting on.
Yeah, awesome. We look forward to being part of your adventure too there, Marlon. And, yeah, all the best in sunny Jamaica.
Okay, messages from the Twitters. Yoli Bear, otherwise known as Yolanda, has a new podcast, and she's from Ontario, Canada, and it's if you can check that out at yolibear.com. And she wrote to us and she said she loves our podcast and we gave her the confidence to do her own show. She has learnt lots from our show and our awesome guests. Yay, bananas. That's a quote from Yolanda. So thanks, Yolanda. We've got a little bit of your podcast here to show people what it sounds like. What a minute.
Hello, Bee Tribe, and welcome to episode 3 of Yoli Bear's Beekeeping Journal. Today, I'm going to talk about the Beekeepers Associations. They are very important.
Indeed, they are. And Yolanda's her podcast is about Canadian beekeeping, but I don't think she's from Canada.
No, I sort of get that feeling, but I think that her point about beekeeping associations or beekeeping clubs, awesome place to get into seeing the bees and, meeting the bees and other beekeepers in your area. And it's always helpful to know what's going on locally because that will help you on your beekeeping adventures, that's for sure. And you know what? We've met a lot of beginners over time and they all form part of our beekeeping community. And so that's what will happen when you start interacting with all these people. And, yeah, what an awesome bunch. We're so lucky, eh?
Absolutely. So good luck with the podcast, Yolanda. That's awesome. And we're listening all the way in New Zealand, so keep it up. The bonus buzz this week.
Oh, Gary, that was just shocking.
Okay, well, we're talking about the bonus show that comes out.
And this is where you can get a little extra when you are
a supporter.
A supporter.
And this week we're talking about a jar of honey that's selling for $1,800 and why mad honey isn't a great Christmas present. The bonus show, as we said, is for our supporters, so that'll be coming out in about a week.
Awesome.
And did you enjoy this show? Did you find anything useful?
I found it quite difficult to be fair.
Not you. You just be quiet in the corner.
Okay.
Anyway, if you enjoyed the show can automatically appear on your podcast device by subscribing in your podcast application. And if you want to know some ways to do that, you can go to kiwi.bz/subscribe. And a device can be an iPad, or it can be a tablet, a phone, all sorts of things. Even cars these days have.
What about your computer on your desk at home?
You could.
Or at work.
Especially at work, because, when you're bored at work, you could just listen to the kiwimana buzz.
Indeed.
And the show notes for this podcast are kiwi.bz/131.
Awesome. Well, I think we need a good banana for that one. Banana! And thanks, guys, and...
Merry Christmas!
No, we're not wishing anyone a Merry Christmas.
Why?
Merry festivities.
Oh, okay. Merry festivities!
Okay, guys, well, thanks so much for listening.
Why can't we wish people a Merry Christmas?
No, because we're going to do a separate podcast for that.
Oh, separate Christmas show coming out.
Not Christmas show, just
little thing.
Separate.
We need your help, you out there listening. We're going to having an end of the year survey.
Yeah, can you help?
Can you help us do the survey? We want to see what you like about the show and what you think we could improve on. It's kiwi.bz/survey. Thank you for listening to the show. It's awesome that you've joined us this week.
We're really tired, guys, and we're looking for a break. And we've just loved doing this tonight, and the challenges we've overcome them, and we're just so grateful to you guys. So just be safe out there, and we'll talk to you soon.
See ya. Merry Christmas.
He's not supposed to say that yet because it's only bloody summer.
And let's listen to the promo.
Cool.
Hi, Gary and Margaret. It's Chris from Sheffield in the UK.
That's the wrong one.
The Lone Ranger.
Let's listen.
Classic. Yeah, so be sorry. Goodness gracious me. How very rude. Oh, f***'s sake. Gary, check your levels. Challenged wish.